Today, we are wading into one of the Buddha's most famous and maybe one of the most misunderstood teaching tools, the parable of the raft.
A classic, but yeah, often just scratched at the surface.
Exactly. Now, if you've heard this one before, you probably think it's just a simple analogy, right? Use a tool, cross the river, leave the tool behind. Simple.
Mm-hmm. The standard take.
But we are going far deeper. We're getting into the original context, the Alagaddupama Sutta. That's the discourse on the water snake simile.
Crucial context.
To understand this teaching as, well, really a radical instruction, this isn't just about using the Noble Eightfold Path.
No, it's much more challenging.
It's about the ultimate necessary act of abandoning it once it's done its job.
And that's really our mission today. We're looking at this as, you could say, a philosophical toolkit the Buddha deployed very precisely.
Because there was a problem.
Exactly. The community was facing a kind of internal crisis. So the raft parable, it doesn't just stand alone.
Oh, okay.
It's really the final step in a sophisticated three-part teaching strategy. It's designed specifically to stop people from misusing the path.
3 parts.
Yeah. So we're going to analyze how the Buddha first corrected the wrong content of the teaching, then the wrong method of engaging with it.
Okay, content and method.
And finally, he provided the ultimate instruction on the right relationship to the teachings themselves. That's where the raft comes in.
I like that structure. Tells us this wasn't just some, gentle philosophical suggestion.
Oh, not at all. It was serious.
It was more like an emergency intervention. So let's start with the drama. Where did this need for a disposable path even come from? What was the crisis?
Well, the sources are pretty clear. This whole discourse, it was kicked off by one specific monk, Arya.
Okay.
And the text specifically mentions he was formerly of the vulture killers. Maybe a hint at his background or disposition, perhaps.
Interesting detail. So what did Arya do?
He started spreading what the Buddha flat out called a pernicious view, a dangerous idea.
Okay, and what was so dangerous about Arya's position? What was he actually saying?
Arya was basically asserting that things usually called obstructions, and he was talking specifically about sensual pleasures, including sexuality.
Right, the big ones?
That these things were somehow not able to obstruct a person who engages in them.
Hold on.
Yeah.
He was saying you could indulge in sense pleasures and still progress on the path without any problem.
That was the gist of it. He was essentially arguing you could pursue liberation while, simultaneously indulging in the very things the teachings identify as the fuel of suffering.
Wait a second. That's not just a minor disagreement, is it?
Not even close.
If craving for sensual pleasure isn't an obstruction, you've basically you've negated the whole mechanism of suffering on the way out.
Got it.
It completely collapses the second noble truth, right?
Right.
The one that says craving is the root cause of dukkha.
Precisely. It's an existential threat to the Dhamma itself, a fundamental content error.
Wow. So how did the Buddha handle that?
He addressed Arya directly. The text says he rebuked him sternly, telling him this view would only lead to his lasting harm and suffering.
Strong words.
Very. And then to really systematically dismantle this claim that sensual pleasures are harmless, the Buddha unleashes this sequence of 10 extremely powerful similes.
10 similes, just hammering the point home.
Exactly. Designed to shock the listener, really, out of any complacency, to show just how fleeting, how treacherous, how painful craving really is.
Can you give us a couple of the most potent examples? What kind of imagery are we talking about?
Oh, the imagery is intense. Think about sensual pleasure being compared to a grass torch.
A grass torch.
Okay. Looks bright, exciting maybe, but it's constantly threatening to burn the hand of the person carrying it.
Ah, okay. Painful.
Or it's like a scrap of meat thrown down. What happens?
Birds fight over it. Conflict.
Exactly. It attracts scavengers, leads to inevitable conflict over who gets it. Possession means struggle.
Right.
And maybe the most vivid one, it's like being tempted by the beautiful head of a venomous snake.
Ooh, looks appealing, but deadly.
Immense danger. For what? Minimal, fleeting gratification.
Okay, so that reframes sensual pleasure from just, simple enjoyment to an immediate active threat.
Absolutely. It's a direct correction of the content of Arya's wrong view.
But then the Buddha immediately pivots, right? From the what to the how. That's where this water snake simile comes in.
Spot on. The water snake simile shifts the focus. It's not just about the objects of craving anymore. It's about the way we handle the teachings themselves, the Dhamma.
So even if you have the right information,
you can still mess it up badly. This part warns against possessing the right teachings, but using them with the wrong method, the wrong intention.
It sounds like the difference between using wisdom as, say, a key to unlock something versus using it as a weapon to hit someone over the head with.
That's a great way to put it. Precisely. The allegory goes like this. If a man foolishly tries to catch dangerous water snake,
Like grabbing it the wrong way.
yeah, grabbing it by the body, or even worse, by the tail, what's going to happen?
It's going to turn around and bite him badly.
Right. It inflicts a deadly bite, or at least serious pain. That's the wrong grasp. And how do we see that kind of wrong grasp manifest in, say, the spiritual or intellectual world?
Well, it sounds like maybe grasping knowledge only to criticize other people or to get into endless debates, just showing off how smart you are, using philosophy for self-aggrandizement.
Exactly that. The teachings, which are meant for liberation, they get twisted. They're used instead to generate pride, conflict, and ultimately more suffering.
So the teaching itself, wrongly grasped, becomes harmful.
It absolutely does. But conversely, the skillful person, what do? They use a forked stick.
A tool, carefully.
Yes. They exercise caution, wise examination. They use the stick to pin the snake's head and then grasp it safely by the neck. They approach the Dhamma with the clear purpose of applying it for their own welfare and happiness, not as a tool for vanity or attacking others.
So understanding the why and the how of using the teaching.
Precisely. And this sets the perfect, necessary stage for the Raft parable, which is the final, ultimate instruction on non-attachment.
Okay, so step 1. Correct to the content sensual pleasure is dangerous, not harmless. Step 2. Correct the method. Don't grasp wisdom foolishly or use it to harm.
Got it.
Now, the Buddha presents the journey itself. The parable of the raft, it basically maps out the entire spiritual landscape for you, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a complete topography.
Let's start on this side of the water then. What defines this side? The perilous near shore.
The perilous near shore symbolizes samsara, plain and simple.
Samsara, the cycle.
Right. It's the world we live in, defined by that relentless cycle of suffering, dukkha, death, rebirth. It's characterized by those 4 main types of clinging we mentioned earlier.
Remind us.
Clinging to sense pleasures, obviously, but also clinging to fixed views, clinging to rites and rituals, and fundamentally clinging to the idea of a permanent, stable self. That's the near shore.
And separating the traveler from safety from the other side is?
That is the river, sometimes called the Great Deluge, the flood.
Okay. What does the river represent?
It represents the incredibly powerful forces that keep that cycle of samsara churning away. We're talking about the powerful current of craving, tanha, and the just vast flood of ignorance, avijja.
Craving and ignorance, the big 2.
Exactly. Often these are grouped as the 4 floods that are constantly sweeping us up. The flood of sensuality, the flood of existence itself, the flood of wrong views, and the flood of ignorance. It's the constant flow of conditioned reality we're caught in.
So the traveler sees the safety on the far bank, realizes there's no bridge, no easy way across.
Right, they're stuck.
So they have to build something. They build the improvised raft. And this raft is the Dhamma, the Noble Eightfold Path.
Correct, that's the vehicle.
Now, this is where, for me, there's this really profound philosophical nugget. It's about the materials used to build it.
Ah, yes. This is absolutely crucial. It's a detail that's so easy to just skip over, but you really can't overstate its importance.
What does the text say it's built from?
The traveler builds the raft not from some, special divine wood or imported sacred material.
No.
No. It's built from grass, sticks, branches, and leaves gathered right there.
Right there on the near shore, the shore of suffering.
Exactly, from the very place they are trying to escape.
Okay, that detail fundamentally changes the whole spiritual message, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It means the path to liberation isn't some external thing. It's not transcendent in the sense of coming from outside. It's not granted by some god.
So what is it then?
It's profoundly immanent and empirical. The means for achieving freedom are fashioned from the ordinary, mundane components of your own life.
My own mind, my own experience.
Your own consciousness, your sensations, your thoughts. We learn to skillfully bind these components together. The very stuff of our suffering becomes the raw material for our liberation.
Wow, so the path is literally built from the problem itself.
You got it. The tools for escape are inherent in the experience of suffering. You build your own way out using the material of your conditioned mind and body.
That's incredibly powerful. Okay, so this construction project is complete. The difficult crossing of the river happens, and finally you reach the other side, the secure far shore.
Yes, the far shore is the destination, nirvana or nibbana in Pali.
And how is that described?
The sources describe it quite beautifully. It's the sanctuary free of peril. It's without fears.
Sounds good.
It's the total irreversible cessation of suffering. It's the extinguishing of those three fires, greed, hatred, and delusion. It's the end goal, liberation.
Okay, so the journey's over. The perilous river, the floods of craving and ignorance, they're behind the traveler, they're safe on the far shore.
Finally made it.
This brings us to the climax of the parable, the really radical instruction that gives it its lasting power. What must the traveler now do with their magnificent, life-saving raft?
Right, and the Buddha's central statement here is completely unambiguous. He says, I have taught how the teaching is similar to a raft. It's for crossing over, not for holding on.
Not for holding on.
That's the key. The Dhamma, the Noble Eightfold Path, all of it, it's instrumental. It's a tool. It's not a possession. And it's certainly not meant to become your new identity.
The choice presented then seems almost absurd when you think about it.
How so?
Well, option one, hoist that heavy, cumbersome raft onto your shoulders and start carrying it inland on the safe shore.
Turning a tool of liberation into
an immediate, pointless burden. Or option two, acknowledge how useful it was, maybe beach it gently, maybe set it adrift and just walk on unburdened.
The wise choice is clearly grateful release. Let it go.
And this is where the instruction becomes, well, frankly, quite shocking, isn't it?
It really is. The Buddha pushes the implication to its absolute limit. He states, by understanding the simile of the raft, you will even give up the teachings, dhammas, let alone what is against the teachings, atmas.
Well, hang on, let me process that. You give up the teachings, the dhammas.
Even those, even the good things, the right things, must eventually be discarded.
Even the good thoughts have to go. That's a radical demand. It almost feels like we're being asked to discard the very ethical and philosophical framework that got us here in the first place.
I see why you'd say that.
Where's the line here between this kind of liberation and just nihilism, throwing everything away?
That is the absolute critical question and a very common misunderstanding. If you read that statement in isolation, yeah, it can sound like abandoning ethics, abandoning the path altogether.
Right.
But you have to remember the context. This whole sutta began by fiercely condemning the nihilistic view of Aryatha. Remember.
Okay, good point. So it's not about becoming unethical.
Definitely not. The letting go here isn't about abandoning virtuous conduct or ethical behavior. It's the abandonment of clinging to the path, clinging to it as a fixed dogma or as a possession or as a source of ego and pride.
Ah, okay. So it's an injunction to move from having right view, which was the tool the raft used for crossing, to having no view, which is the state of liberation itself. The raft of right view mustn't become the final chain, the final fetter.
Exactly, you've nailed it. When you cling to the teachings, even the right ones, you turn the means into the end.
Right.
You start to possess the Dhamma. It becomes your dogma, your intellectual pride, your basis for arguing with others. When you ask, but my view is correct, how can I possibly discard it? What are you doing?
You're making it about me. About my correct view.
Precisely. You're engaging in what the Buddhist tradition calls I-making, that subtle, persistent mental habit of creating a fixed identity around your current understanding, your method, your achievements.
Why I-making? So clinging to the raft is the final, maybe the most subtle attempt to say, look at me, I am the one who crossed, and this path is mine.
It is the ultimate conceptual support for the notion of I and mine, and the realization of not self-anta requires the final dissolution of all such conceptual supports.
All of them, even the good ones.
Even the raft. Letting go of the raft means letting go of the entire framework that enabled the journey, because in a sense, the person who needed that framework no longer exists in the same way upon reaching the far shore. The goal has been reached.
Okay, this wisdom is thousands of years old, but it feels incredibly relevant to modern psychology, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Timeless.
If the raft is the successful tool, the strategy, the belief system, and the river is the big life challenge you crossed, what does carrying the raft look like today in a psychological sense?
Well, it perfectly embodies that common aphorism. You hear it all the time. What got you here won't get you there.
Right. Familiar phrase.
The raft could be a highly successful coping mechanism you developed during a really difficult time, maybe trauma or intense pressure. It might be a survival skill.
Or maybe a professional identity.
Exactly. A defining professional identity, a way of working, or even a relationship style that served a crucial purpose in one chapter of your life.
Yeah, I think we can all picture ourselves hauling that heavy raft around sometimes. Maybe intense analytical thinking was absolutely essential for your academic success, got you through your PhD, helped you climb the career ladder.
It's a very useful raft for crossing that particular river.
But now maybe that same rigidity, that same analytical distance prevents you from connecting emotionally with your family, or it stops you from being open to new creative ideas at work.
The tool that saved you now burdens you. That's the psychological cost of carrying the raft inland.
And looking at it through a cognitive lens, what's happening there?
The traveler carrying the raft, they're basically committing two classic cognitive errors. First, you've got the sunk cost fallacy.
Sunk cost. Explain that.
They overvalue the tool, the raft, because of the immense effort, time, and maybe suffering that went into building it and using it. They focus on the past investment, ignoring its present uselessness or even hindrance.
I worked so hard on this, I can't just leave it.
Exactly. And second, it demonstrates profound cognitive rigidity.
Rigidity, just being stuck.
Yeah. The inability to update their strategy, their behavior, when the environment fundamentally changes. They've moved from the river to dry land, but they're still acting like they need the raft.
So the parable is really this ancient, incredibly elegant call for intellectual flexibility.
Oh, wait.
And emotional flexibility, too.
I think so. Ideas, beliefs, even successful habits and behaviors, they're tools. They aren't you.
Right.
The intellectually and emotionally flexible person, they can revise or even discard a theory, a strategy, a habit when the evidence changes or the context shifts.
And crucially, without feeling like their fundamental self-worth is being attacked or diminished.
That intellectual humility is really the goal state, isn't it? But, to really grasp the unique power of the raft parable, it helps to compare it to other philosophical ideas about non-attachment that you might have come across.
Okay, good idea. Let's look at a couple of cross-currents. How about the Taoist parable of the empty boat?
Ah, yes, the empty boat. This teaches what we might call perceptual non-attachment.
Perceptual? How so?
Well, the story goes, if you're relaxing in your boat and another boat bumps into yours, but you see it's empty, just drifting, you aren't angry, right?
No, it's just an accident. Annoying maybe, but no anger.
But if you look over and see someone piloting that colliding boat, what happens instantly?
Anger. You assume carelessness, maybe even malice. You project intent onto them.
Exactly. The Taoist insight is to try and view all external obstacles, even aggressions from other people, as if they originated from an empty boat. Remove your projection of hostile intent.
So you don't generate the anger and conflict within yourself.
Right. It's about how you choose to perceive the outside world and the actions of others. Detachment from projected intent.
Okay, that's perceptual non-attachment. Then we have something like the Stoic archer analogy. People often bring this up when talking about fate and effort.
Yes, the Stoic archer. This teaches telic non-attachment. Telos meaning goal or outcome.
So detachment from the outcome.
Precisely. The archer's duty, their virtue, lies entirely in the process. Drawing the bow correctly, aiming carefully, releasing the arrow skillfully, that's what's in their control.
But once the arrow leaves the bow,
it's out of their hands. The wind might catch it. The target might move slightly. External factors take over. Where the arrow actually lands is, for the Stoic, ultimately indifferent.
So commit to the virtuous action, but be detached from the result.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the result isn't fully up to you. This is about detachment from results or outcomes.
Okay. So if the empty boat teaches detachment from the perception of external malice or intent.
Perceptual non-attachment.
And the archer teaches detachment from the final outcome.
Telic non-attachment.
Then what is the ultimate unique lesson, the core distillation of the raft parable?
The raft teaches instrumental non-attachment. It's the necessity, the wisdom of letting go of the tools, the methods, the successful processes themselves once they have fulfilled their function.
Letting go of the instrument itself.
Yes. It reminds us that wisdom, techniques, paths, they aren't trophies to be polished and carried forever. They're means to be employed skillfully and then, crucially, released gracefully.
So a truly liberated mind.
A truly liberated mind is free from clinging to its methods, its perceptions, and its outcomes. It's a comprehensive kind of freedom. #outro.
Wow. Okay, so the raft parable, when you really unpack it like this, it is, in its final form, just the perfect instruction in the middle way, isn't it?
It really strikes that balance perfectly.
It affirms the absolute necessity of the path, the ethical components you must build and use the raft carefully. That saves us from falling into nihilism. Like Arya.
Right. The raft is essential for crossing.
Yet it fiercely denies the ultimate permanent dogmatic status of that path. You have to let it go.
Yeah.
And that saves us from falling into rigid dogmatism or spiritual materialism.
Exactly. Use it, then release it. And its power as, say, a diagnostic tool for looking at modern life is just immense.
How so?
Whenever you encounter that kind of, institutional stubbornness or organizational resistance to change, or even just personal stuckness.
Where people just refuse to adapt even when things have clearly changed.
Yes. The core question the parable invites you to ask is always there. What is the raft? What is the precious, maybe once life-saving tool that is now being carried inland on the shoulder, heavy with sunk cost and ego and pride?
Identifying the raft you're still carrying.
That's often the first step to being able to put it down.
So the ultimate wisdom, maybe for you, the listener, is knowing not only how to construct and use that life-saving tool when you need it,
but also recognizing that crucial moment when, and understanding how to leave it behind, gently, gratefully.
the path is built, not just found or bestowed, but even the very best construction, the most effective raft,
must eventually be released.
you have to continue the final, most important part of the journey completely unburdened.
Something to really meditate on this week, perhaps. What rafts might you be carrying?